Hello everyone. In this session we will understand about market structure, different kinds of market structures, and what kind of market we generally see in case of healthcare. Um, so why we will require to learn this, this market structure, because whenever we talk about market, it starts with demand and supply, and it talks about the price and then the quantity supplied or quantity demanded. So this is the market structure, and depending upon the price, and the supply and then the demand, the production based upon the cost structure takes place. Therefore, the market determines the scenario of healthcare, be it from the demand side, that is the health seeking behavior or the health status, or be it from the supply side, that is the health services. Therefore, it is very important to learn to gain a knowledge about different types of market structure when we are studying health systems. While studying health systems, since our first discussion, maybe we have learned that health is a kind of market which is accumulated based on several fragmented markets. Like there is a enormous amount of heterogeneity from product to product, from places to places, from community to community, from different diseases to across different diseases. So the both the demand and supply framework has been very different. Therefore, this is when to understand the market mechanism of health systems, as well as for the policy makers, it is important that we have proper idea, proper knowledge about the about what happens on behind the scene of these health systems in terms of the market. When we talk about the competitions across hospitals, when we talk about the competitions across or among the doctors, when we talk about the shortage of a particular vaccine, when we talk about whether there is oversupply of a particular specialist, say dentists, and then based on that, the entire pricing or the hospital fee, the diagnostic charges, everything is determined whether a particular market, say pharmaceutical market, is open to the international economy. So it is very dynamic in nature. So one must have a solid understanding about different market structure for different healthcare products or healthcare outcomes. So a market structure basically is determined or dependent upon several characteristics. So the characteristics which determine a market structure, not a market, a market structure. If it starts with the number of firms, industries or suppliers. Yes, depending upon how many industries, how many firms, how many suppliers, how many healthcare providers are there, that is the one important characteristics which determine my market structure, that what kind of market it is. That is not sold because we have plenty of things to come. The next one is the nature of the product produced. What kind of product, how whether it is very expensive, very complicated, whether it deals with several other products or byproducts. So in terms of healthcare, whether it requires services of several other paramedic entities. So this product of the nature of the product is also very important to determine the market structure or the characteristics of a particular market. The next is the degree of monopoly power a firm enjoys. This degree of monopoly power means that they have a strong control over the market. They can differentiate price. They are the price makers, so they can determine the price. They can differentiate across the products. They can fragment the market. So this is the monopoly is actually the control the over the firm has over a particular market. And that completely explains that what will be the decision making authority of a particular firm or a group of firms in a particular market. There can be just one firm, there can be multiple firms, and there can be only a few firms, and the monopoly power of each firm out of that only, or maybe one firm out of that, or a group of firm out of all these firms, will determine that how this market will work and how the price mechanism, how the demand and supply will be made, how the price will be set. The next is profit levels. So whenever we are talking about this degree of monopoly power, we will say the power to influence price, because price gives them the revenue. So this is very, very important, how they influence the price, or what is the influencing power they enjoy. The next one is the profit level they want to keep, whether they are ready to earn on a normal profit level, that is no profit no loss, or kind of when they perform in a break even point where the cost total cost and the revenue are equal, so there is no profit, or they want to make some positive profit. So the profit level and what is their aspiration, what is their target, will determine that what kind of market we are talking about. The next can be firms behavior in pricing strategies, and or the non-price competition or the output levels. Firms behavior, pricing and product strategies. It also includes the output level, whether they are differentiating markets. So it can also be associated with the monopoly power they enjoy, partially, of course, yes. And the extent there is a barrier to entry of that. If a firm wants to enter a particular industry, they may not be entertained, or they may not get the entry. So how far there is a chance that a new firm can join a particular industry, whether there is a barrier, whether there is no barrier, they can just open just register their firms and start operating, or there is no way, even if they try to start operating, but they will get any business because the market is influenced by other players. So even if I try to do it, there is no way that I can make a move forward. So the extent of barriers to entry, and then the impact on efficiency, that how efficiently that market is or the industry, together a number of firms, so how efficiently they are producing the product. So if the market is perfect, we'll learn shortly that what is a perfect market. So if a market is perfect, we say that there is an efficiency, there is an equity in distribution and all this, at the the lowest or no wastage of resources. So this, or more the market gets imperfect, market imperfection arises, then more the market moves towards more of inefficiency or the higher price, and then the output is never justified by the price, or the cost is kept lower, and then to attain a high level of profit, they have kept the price, so which is not an efficient way or efficient economy. Yeah. So the function of price is number one. What it does, it brings the market in equilibrium, so that whenever there is a shortage or supply, shortage or surplus, whenever there is a shortage or surplus, what the price does, it helps the supplier and then the consumer to engage in a bargaining, and that is where if there is a shortage, the price will go up, and if there is a surplus where the supply is more than the demand, the price will go down, because the supplier has to sell their products. So the price actually attains it is flexible, and it helps the market to attain a equilibrium price where the supplier gets a good price, and they can sell what they desire to, where the consumers get what they require or what they wish to get at a particular given price. So that helps us to attain a market equilibrium. The second one is, as a good becomes scarce, the price goes up, and as the good in case of a shortage and surplus, and as a good becomes abundant, then the prices will come down, shortage and surplus. But do they affect the consumers or a market as a whole? Affect the consumers or the suppliers, or here healthcare providers or firms? Yeah, how do these affect? If the supplier wants to make a profit, positive profit, not a normal profit. If they want to make a profit, then whether this if the price comes down at a following its natural behavior to bring in an equilibrium, whether that satisfies the supplier or whether it really satisfies the consumer, because maybe the consumers were wanting the more, but they cannot afford any price more than that, but they didn't get the level of output or the level of health or the service they actually wanted to have, or they have to have. So and that is very, again, very uncertain, because it varies from market to market, it varies from country to country, it varies from socioeconomic group across socioeconomic groups. So the major market structures what we generally find are four in nature. So the first being monopolistic competition. The first being perfect competition. The second, monopolistic competition. Third, oligopoly. And fourth, monopoly. So these are the basic four market structures. Only this perfect competition can be known as a perfect market, whereas these all three can be clubbed as market imperfection. So what happens is, if I try to plot them in a simpler way, so if I keep here perfect competition, one extreme, another extreme is of course monopoly. We will learn more about why of course monopoly. So what happens, one over here competition increases towards this side, and fewer imperfections where from this side to this side we have less competition and a greater degree of imperfection. Yes, so and in between there will be first monopolistic competition, and second there will be oligopoly, and if you can, then the third will be duopoly. Now, perfect competition is generally where there is perfect competition across a lot of firms. There's a lot of producers, a lot of sellers, a lot of suppliers, enormous, infinity. Whereas in case of monopoly, this is a fast fundamental difference. The monopoly, mono is one, and monopoly is where there is only one firm. Here multiple firms, empty number of firms, here only one firm, monopoly. Duo is two firms. So you can see from perfect competition where infinite number of firms to slowly one firm, it is slowly, the competition is decreasing. So, and it works like this. And so whenever we are going towards the right from perfect competition to monopoly, we have from more competition to less competition, and when there is a more competition is higher, of course we will try to have bring more efficiency in my product, the quality will be better, whereas in monopoly, I enjoy the market, everything is mine, so the degree of monopoly power slowly, so that the control over the market, maybe because of that, if there is any inefficiency, then inefficiency. So everything increases when I move or decreases, sorry, when everything decreases, so control over the market increases, and then the level of inefficiency probably, or most likely, yes, that it decreases from perfect competition towards monopoly slowly from each across each of this, from perfect to monopolistic, monopolistic oligopoly, oligopoly to duopoly, duopoly to monopoly. It's like that. So what are the importance, that to understand that what are the different market structures? That first thing is that consumers have an idea about why they are being charged differently, and what is the level of competition, and whether that whether there is at all any competition, and whether that competition really determines the price we are paying for our providers towards our provider, because health is a right, and and health is a mix, healthcare market is a mix of public and private market. So, and we really, it's very difficult to understand that whether a particular market really have it's possible, whether is it possible or not, that to have a perfectly competitive market where efficiency is ensured. We'll shortly learn about that. We'll slowly learn about that whether in healthcare market, which kind of market is this. But before that, we'll try to learn about different kind of market in a broad way. So, and this of course, this particular market structures have a direct implication on the quality of services or the performance the firms provide to us. That's and when we are talking about this, not only quantity or the accessibility or the affordability, we also talk about the quality of the healthcare services. And then if the market is not perfect, and if that has a serious implication, adverse impact on the performance of those particular healthcare providers, then we need to think about that, because the health is being kept at stake, and the government certainly needs to do anything, or if possible, if the market is not a completely monopolized, then if possible, the patients, the consumers will shift to other possible options. And if yes, but if there may not be options, they may not have information. So, so the characteristics of each model are, again, if they, like say, it will determine about the number and size of the firms, the control of the over the price, the control over the output, whether they will do advertisements or not, how will they allure their patients, and then the kind of product they are producing, whether under the same banner they keep it heterogeneous or they will keep homogeneous, or every organization has a niche product or something like that. So, and all this will determine that what is the market structure. In case of perfect competition, the first point is while I discuss about the characteristics of a perfectly competitive market, then the first point it is of course is one extreme market structure. So first point is, if you remember, we started with the number of firms. Yeah, so over here also we'll say the large number of firms. Yes, and the second point is products are homogeneous. That is same, every single firm produces absolutely similar kind of product, you know. So, and consumer have no preference based on the products, or I will say no preference on a particular firm based on the product characteristics, because all the products are absolutely similar. The third is there is a full freedom of entry and exit. Anybody can enter the market, start the business, anybody can exit if they wish to exit. It's completely free market, you know. Anybody can, if I want to set up a clinic, I can set up a clinic. Yes, and if I, you know, and I have to of course give the same kind of product, and if I want to leave, I can just close the shop. That's all, stop my consultancy business. So there is an absolute freedom towards entry and exit, and each producer, oh, before that, firms are price takers. They have no control over the price they charge. Just for an example, if a particular firm, say if a particular doctor increases his consultancy fee, you know, so everybody will stop going to him. He loses his entire business, because there are 99 more doctors who provide the same treatment at a lower cost. Why will I go to him? So he loses business, so he will bring down his price, number one. Number two, if a doctor decreases his price, now all the patients will come to that doctor. Yes, and everyone else in 99 else will find a significant loss in the business. If not, they don't get any business, because the one doctor cannot accommodate all 100 doctors' patients. So they will have a significant loss in the business. So what they will do to gain back their customers, they will also decrease the price. But in that way, probably the price will continue decreasing. No, it doesn't happen like that, because the you know, the suppliers, the providers, they have to survive, they have to be in the market, they cannot lose, because in a perfectly competitive market there is no profit, no loss. Normal profit. So what happens if in this condition they are decreasing the price, then they may make losses. So slowly everybody will increase the price, because otherwise if some firm they continue keeping a lower price, they may, you know, they may fall back, because they will continuously lose even if they have a higher number. Here we are not discussing about economies of scale. Right, so they may lose such a number of or continuously considerable amount of loss, which they will not able to make up, and then they will slowly moved out of the market. And each producer sells a very small share of the market, sells a very small share of total market or the industry. Yes, because there are so many producers. So they, like, you know, one particular producer is actually, or one particular seller or one particular provider is actually selling or supplying a very small proportion. Yeah, and then the last one is consumers and producers have perfect knowledge. Both the consumer and the producer has perfect knowledge. Consumer has perfect knowledge about the producer, the quality of the product, the price of the product, how many producer are there, where they are, everything. Similarly, the producer have a perfect knowledge that how much the consumers are willing to pay, what is the number of consumer I can get. If I lose or if I lower my price, how much I am going to get and how much I am going to lose. If I increase my price, what will happen, what others are charging. So they have every single information about the market. So that is a perfect knowledge about the market. So in case of this perfect competition, if we diagrammatically want to represent that, then over here quantity, output, or the sales, and over here cost and revenue. You can keep marginal cost, marginal revenue, total revenue and total cost. And then this is my revenue curve. This is because this is my P, yeah, my price of the product. It doesn't change because everybody is a price taker, not a price maker. Whatever the market is determining, that is the price, and everybody has the same price. Say the best example can be in a perfect location there are around say 20 chai walas, yeah, tea vendors. So if there are 20 tea vendors, nobody will keep their price little high or little low, and probably the quality is also similar. They may not be similar, mostly they are not. Yeah, generally they are not. So it's an extreme case, but still. So the price are generally you find them to be similar. Even in a train you see that several vendors are coming up, but the prices are same. So and then the product has no differentiation. That's what we expect, and we don't have still like and we don't really make a preference that I will get from him or I will get from the other person, because I think that everybody produces the same quality of tea. So similarly over here, price equals marginal revenue and the average revenue. Why marginal revenue? Marginal revenue, if you remember, change in total revenue by change in quantity. Yes, change in total revenue. What is total revenue? Price and quantity. Price is constant, right? So divided by del Q. So price is constant, so it remains out and this two gets cancelled. So your price remains same, because if for every single output your price remains same. And when you are multiplying your total product, this into this, this into this, this into this, total revenue. Yeah, so this is how even the average revenue is just price, because average revenue is nothing but total revenue PQ by Q, which is nothing but the price. So it's a straight line, it remains constant. At the same time, we will, when we estimate the marginal cost and average cost, if you remember, then my marginal cost is something like that, and from where this average marginal cost curve passes through the bottommost point of average cost curve, isn't it? To the minimum point of average cost curve. Yes, so here is the minimum point, and here you will find an intersection of the price, the marginal cost, and then the average cost. Yeah. So and this is my optimal output in a perfectly competitive market, where my P equals MR equals marginal cost. You remember that when we make the maximum profit or the maximum loss, there is basically the difference between total revenue and total cost is maximum, but the the marginal revenue and marginal cost, the slopes, they were same. So over here also we are trying to find this kind of similar condition where my marginal revenue and marginal cost is same, and if they are same, then you can see marginal revenue and marginal cost being same and average cost also in the same point, so I don't make any profit, so my profit is 0. Yes, so this is what happens in a perfectly competitive market, and and anybody, they want to keep the price higher, so naturally it doesn't persist, because over here if they keep the price higher, it will come down because people have information about the price and nobody else increase the price, so they will lose the market. But it is possible, it is possible, because if they charge the price higher, then so they can produce more, but finally they will be over here, so they will lose something, they will lose their product. So even if over here they will intend to produce, but it will be over here, so their average cost is more than the profit, the price, and then they make a loss finally. The next one is the monopolistic competition. So what happens in case of a monopolistic competition? In a monopolistic competition, we are moving further away from the perfect market structure. So from this is the first step towards the imperfection. So monopolistic competition, you can see it's still competition but monopolistic, and the market imperfection starts here, and the various degrees of imperfection can happen in a monopolistic competition. It can be extremely like it can be very close to perfect competition with the relaxation of certain assumptions, but it can also be close towards towards duopoly or oligopoly, but not of course a monopoly, because monopoly has only one firm, and here the first condition is here also there is a large number of firms. So in monopolistic competition also, every time we talk about see that every time we talk about the characteristics of a particular market structure, we start with the number of firms. So here also we are talking about the large number of firms. Yes, in monopolistic competition, similar to the perfect competition, right? So the second thing, which the first shift probably from a strong shift probably from perfect competition, is that there is a product differentiation. There is a product differentiation. So these firms may have some control over the price, because they can now some control over the price. Because here they can now fix separate prices for separate commodities, separate kinds of products. That was not possible, because the first thing was in perfect competition, that homogeneous product. Here first deviation is product differentiation, and every product cannot be priced similarly. So there is a differential in the price, and who decides the price? Here the firms decide the price, because they know the characteristics of their products, how they are differing, how much they are differing, and all this. So the third one will be now slowly that we are moving towards price setters from price takers. So some control over the price will take you to over here, but here product differentiation, they may be close substitutes, but not but they may be close substitutes but not perfect. Everything is not similar. So this I can use probably one soap in case of others, the soaps, maybe the colors are different, blue and white, but they are from the same company, so I can just choose, or white Dettol soap or orange Dettol soap, I can just choose. Probably they are different in terms of as a product, but the variation is the difference is so low that they are they are close substitutes but not the perfect substitutes, number one. Number two, in terms of other, say if I just want to go to get an injection, maybe a tetanus ATT injection, then probably I will, it doesn't matter really that whether I will go to a doctor or I will go to a simple diagnostic center or I will go to a lab technician who is certified, because everybody can serve me the same way. So so, and or maybe if I know a nurse or a midwife, may not be midwives, a nurse, maybe they can also do, solve my problem. So they can be substitutes but not perfect substitute. So now slowly with the product differentiation, they are moving towards the price setters, and as they are price setters, they have their own demand curves. For each product, differentiated product, they have their own different curves, because for each demand curve we have a separate price. May not be, but mostly, because we are claiming that the products are different. My Colgate paste has salt, or that Colgate paste has neem, or something like that, and they are different because your teeth may need salt and your teeth may need neem. I don't know how it matters, but they say, and they show that doctor has recommended, so I am going for that. Yes, so and that will have differential prices. I don't know whether the price is different because the price of salt or price of neem are different, or the effectiveness is different. We have no idea. So when we have no idea, then the knowledge imperfection arises. So the knowledge imperfection. Yes, and also when they are trying to create their own customized product, niche product, there is always a barriers towards entry and exit. Mostly entry. That's primarily because if a new new provider wants to enter, they may not have something very customized, something very unique. It can be difficult for them to survive. Yes, so there is a barriers to entry and exit, and then maybe with the product differentiation, they want to bring a new product. Then there can be several regulations, certifications, this and that, which may slowly, with the more the market is imperfect, more these barriers get stronger. So and then there is a barriers to entry and exit. How it matters when they are exiting? That's primarily because maybe their one product is not doing well, the other product is doing well, so they can find a difficulty in exiting. So even if a loss-making product is there, so they really don't want to pull them, or they probably will relaunch that. So it really is a tricky game. The next one is the market may indeed be relatively localized. Why the market is localized? That's because when they are differentiating the product, they are differentiating based on the market demand. That okay, this market may demand this type of product, so I will keep this type of product for this particular market. You won't see a toothpaste with neem or salt, in anywhere in probably in a Western country. Right? So again, so similarly, you won't probably see a popular food which has a beef or pork across India, or even other meats. So it is very different, and it's important that they keep this market segmented or separated from from population to population. So whenever there is a monopolistic market, or whenever there is a differential product, be it a restaurant, be it cosmetics, be it FMCG, it can be anything, be it a health club, or be it some diagnostic center, the body health checkup, and then these are again very much customized. So and every particular, or even an insurance scheme, every insurance scheme appears to give something different or something more. So they are kind of, and then if there are plenty of market players, suppliers, producers, then or providers, then of course it's a kind of a monopolistic competition. The next is oligopoly. What does it mean, this oligopoly? So now from competition among a large empty number of people with no product differentiation, perfect knowledge, free entry exit to some barrier on entry exit, imperfect knowledge, price setters with product differentiation, monopolistic competition, but with a large number of suppliers. But here in oligopoly we have decreased our number of suppliers, so only it's the competition among the few. So the number of market players have reduced, but even if there is a large number, so what happens, we are saying that the total number of firms have not really decreased. The total number of firms, even if they may not. So even if they have not decreased, but the competition is only among the few. So which basically states that there may be a large number of firms in the industry which is dominated by few. Yes, so even if there are say 20 firms, but it can be dominated by 4, so the competition is only among 4. The rest 20 is not. It can be seen very well in the automobile market. So there are plenty of cars roaming around, but the competition is basically between the Maruti Suzuki, maybe the Hyundai, maybe the Tata, may not be, but still, Similarly for the two-wheeler market, it may be only between the say Honda and or Hero and Bajaj, and to some extent Honda. So so it's or TVS, yeah. So it's even if there are plenty of firms, the competition is slowly reducing. Yes, the next one is the how we define this lower concentration rate. A lower competition rate is through concentration ratio. What this concentration ratio says, this is the proportion of total market sales or share held by the top few market players or sellers or suppliers or providers. Yes, if there are only 4, then if there is out of 20, the total market sales is 100 crore rupees, and what is the share of 4? And then they may have a share of 75 crore rupees of the 100 crore rupees, and that is the 75% of all the firms or the entire industry are being held by these top 4 market players. Yeah, so this is actually the concentration ratio, and then the more the concentration ratio is, the oligopolistic market moves towards an monopolistic market, again if it is ruled out of 4 again by 1. Yes, because monopoly is finally 1. So if 4 is having more and more and more, then it is going towards a stronger oligopoly, or towards maybe duopoly and slowly monopoly. But if 4 have an equal distribution, 4 have an almost equal distribution, and rest 16 have very small share, maybe less than 5% share, then everybody are together maybe only 20% or 25%, then we have a very strong oligopoly. In German automobile market, you can see it's very fragmented. In Germany, we can see only BMW, Audi, Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz, and they have clear identification that which kind of population will buy what, and what will be which kind of car, whether it's a sedan or it's a say between Mercedes and maybe BMW. They decide that whether they are specializing on sedan or a crossover and a hatchback. Otherwise, the Volkswagen is a people's car, in general, costing lower as compared to Audi, which is extremely costly. So they have a clear market segregation, and this oligopoly in that case opens up a chance of collusion. So we are slowly moving to that how this oligopoly market works, what are their characteristics. The first feature of an oligopolistic market or oligopoly market, the first feature of an oligopoly market is number one, price may be relatively stable. Across the industry. Yes, nobody wants to lose the industry. Nobody wants to lose, because four may have the entire authority, or they are enjoying the majority of the authority. So whatever they will decide, the entire market will follow that. If some particular, see, in the mobile market there are plenty of mobile companies who gives you mobile data at a very cheap rate, but people still buy the either maybe Motorola or maybe Apple or maybe Nokia or maybe Samsung, or maybe nowadays I don't know, Redmi, Oppo, several are there, I really don't know. But then it's the market is dominated by only few, and it is dynamic because it is dynamic based on the product, differentiation, how the customer is keeping them. Say at one point of time Nokia really had a strong market, nobody close customers. One point of time Micromax really came up very fast, and then slowly these Chinese mobiles picked up, as well as Apple targeting a particular section of the population. So and over here you can see that there is a collusive oligopoly, there is a chance of collusion. Collusion is just opposite to collision, that they can decide among themselves that okay fine, let's segregate the market, let's decide that what will be our niche areas, what will be our uniqueness, and then we will try to tap the market accordingly. We will try to allure our customers based on our capability or based on our uniqueness, so that we don't actually fight amongst ourselves, and we enjoy the largest share of the market and can enjoy the the whatever we want to do, the product differentiation, the advertisement benefits, the several others, negotiation with the government, everything. So and it happens very well even in the hospital industry. Some hospitals may specialize, say NH specializes on cardiology, some hospital may specialize on oncology, some hospitals may specialize on maybe gastroenterology, or maybe say plastic surgery, or something else, so orthopedic surgeries. So and then they even if they are a multi specialty or super specialty hospital, but they know that they have created, or they have tried to create their own market, which the other big market players have decided not to venture in that way. They will still have a small unit, but they will probably not try to overshadow that other market, other hospital. So there is a collusion. So there is always a potential for collusion. Third is, the behavior of firms affected by what they believe as their rival is going to do. That means they have an idea, or they try to presume that the rival's next strategy will be like this, even if they may have a collusion, right? So they will always try to to get themselves ready parallelly. So believe as their rival, or rivals want to do, or the rival's next strategy. Another one is there is a demand uncertainty. that there is too much of mutual interdependence across all these firms. So and that leads to an uncertainty in terms of the demand, because nobody knows that the others, what others will do, whether they are decreasing the price or increasing the price, what is the quantity demanded, whether they are really changing their strategies. So there is always a demand uncertainty, and then nobody will, and that's create a price stickiness. Nobody will actually change the price, and the next is heterogeneous goods, of course. Goods or lesser homogeneity. Product differentiation, yeah. Next, advertisement. They rely a lot on the advertisement to continue their enjoy their market share or the edge over the other big market players. Slightly, who doesn't want, even if there is a collusion, they want that I will still try to dominate, or I will move ahead, I will move towards a duopoly or a monopoly. So they want that. And then the next one is non-price competition, based on the freebies, based on the health camps, free eye checkups, free health checkups, connecting the corporate organizations, multinational organizations, connecting their employee base. So all this. Then 8 is, the of course the game theoretic approach to understand that what is happening among them, what others are doing, and based on that their rhetoric, their decision making ability will determine that whether they are sticking to the market, or they will slowly lose their market share, or they will improve on that. And then the next one is high barriers to entry, because they already enjoy the market power and the rest 16 are struggling. So what the new firms are going to do, they will eventually lose out. So they will not find a profit making market very easily. So so slowly, if a particular, out of those 4, a particular firms really can intelligently can sway their business in such a way that they eventually have a hold over the rest 3 as well. So they have moved towards the monopoly. And monopoly is if there is only one firm, and duopoly if there is 2 firms. We are straight away going to the monopoly, where there is only one firm, one producer, one supplier. Yeah, so it's a pure monopoly where there is only one producer. So by the name, it's mono means one, only one producer. It in reality, it rarely exists, but the best monopoly can be a power supplier in a particular city. They supply the power because they have the infrastructure, the railways in India. The other best monopoly example in terms of healthcare, maybe in a small town, only one particular diagnostic center has MRI machine. So they enjoy a MRI, they enjoy a monopoly in terms of MRI. Or there is only one doctor, only one dentist, in a particular small town. So they enjoy the monopoly. So and wherever there is a monopoly exists, that one firm dominates the market and they can decide the price. So they are the price makers or price setters. They can differentiate the product, their own product, because they are the only producer or supplier or provider. And so generally in a monopoly market, people really, there is a strong information asymmetry. People really don't have much idea about what is the cost, what is the quality, whether there is any changes going to happen in near future. So there is a strong information asymmetry, and people are always kept are always at the receiving end, the customers. So it's not basically a very efficient market. So inefficient market and often inefficient output. Yes, so it is of course a market failure, but in some cases, say the government wants to become a monopoly because they want to have a strong regulation over the market. So it's absolutely fine. It matters that how and when and in which condition the monopoly is being ensured, or whether it's a because it's a product of market imperfection, it's a forceful, or it's a decision which towards the efficient, towards the equitable distribution of a particular product or production, where the wastage of resources or the suboptimality doesn't exist. In terms of healthcare, it is very, very important, or when if there is a regulation required in terms of the best of the quality, best of the distribution, best of the implementations, then the government can pitch in. But it is often a very difficult decision even by the government, because healthcare is a huge market. So the origins of monopoly can be through the expansion of the firm, through the amalgamation of different firms, from one to another and to another to another. So it's amalgamation of different firms taking over of different firms, and if they get a license or a patent that the government, since they have innovated something, and then the government said, okay, fine, this software can really change the primary health centers working condition, or a networking between the referral system between the rural patients and urban care providers. So I am giving you the patent, and then you can enjoy the monopoly for next 10 years. Whoever wants to use that software, you are the only supplier. So that is government's decision, encouraging that innovation. And otherwise, if it's a completely certified, given by the government. So again, in terms of this price and efficiency, there has always been a question, and but however, the collusion through oligopoly may not actually culminate to the a perfect monopoly, but it may. So we like it's very difficult to say that whether from a particular market it is coming up to be a monopoly, it's moving towards a monopoly or not, and then it's basically the government's decision that whether they are going to entertain a monopoly or not, or how they are going to have a check on that. So if in a particular monopoly condition, what we see generally, that over here it's quantity, over here it's price, and of course the average cost curve and then the marginal cost curve passes through the average cost curve. What we see that they enjoy a profit, and then there is a demand curve which is downward sloping, and over here marginal revenue curve is also downward sloping, not a straight line. That's because diminishing returns to scale, and then this can be the marginal revenue. So this is demand, this is marginal revenue, and then you can see over here if I draw a straight line, and over here if I draw a straight line, where my marginal revenue and marginal cost meets, this is my Q star. This is my optimal output, what I am going to produce. But at the same time, that over here, they will set the price where the yes, they are going to set the price where the demand meets the the quantity, and based on the demand curve they will set the price, because at the demand curve it's the equilibrium, so P star and Q star, but they will make a profit where they are getting this through the average cost curve, and in this average cost curve they are getting this profit, because this is this is their cost and this is the demand, based on the demand curve, this is the price, and this is the cost, and this is the profit. But what eventually, so this is a short run framework, but what eventually happens in a long run framework is my average cost curve, marginal cost curve, I will have a demand curve now which is tangential to the average cost curve, and my marginal revenue curve will be something like this, and then my demand and average cost by price will come from here, and this is my demand and average cost curve intersection point. So this is my cost C, and I will set the price over here as well. So actually they are not making any profit in the long run. So and then it's basically should be like this. Oh. Yes. So here no profit no cost condition in the long run. So this is how the monopolistic competition, or more towards monopoly, this market imperfection where the price is not stable works out. Thank you. So this is all about our market structure, and we will talk about why market structure doesn't really, why it's not really perfect or moves towards imperfection in a healthcare market. Thank you.